Our next speaker, Joe Sriver, was an early Google employee in the years 2001 through 2005. He was the company's first UI designer working for Marissa Mayer. He returned to Minnesota and founded a mobile startup called DoApp in early 2008 in anticipation of the opening of Apple's App Store that year. Full disclosure, I had the pleasure of helping launch the company. Today, DoApp manages more than 1,500 apps, and that's probably a low number anymore, on all major platforms, and has had some 50 million app downloads. DoApp's customers are primarily in the media and publishing and real estate industries. The company helps their customers manage their apps on all the major platforms and also on the mobile web. DoApp instantly updates its customers' apps and mobile websites. They know their customers' audiences, what they read, what they tap, how they engage, and they tell them that on an ongoing basis. Finally, they help their clients make money with built-in ad networks that generate revenue for them. Joe's going to talk to us today about how data drives mobile content decisions. Please welcome Joe Sriver.
Thank you, Graham. All right, as Graham said, my name is Joe Sriver. I'm the founder of DoApp. To reiterate what Graham said, we make about 1,500 apps for iOS, Android, and mobile web that we create for news stations around the country and around the world. We have about 250 or so media outlets that use our product. Before I get started, I just want to mention that I want to focus on two things. I'll try to mess up the slides and make everybody uncomfortable, but the other thing is that I want to give you some actual working or points to be able to take back to the office or home, and so you can take some of the knowledge that you gain from here and start using it immediately. So, like Graham said, we create apps for iOS, Android, and HTML5. We also have a Windows version of our app, but that's used by maybe 0.5% of the population. The issues with this is that, sure, it looks like only three platforms that we have to develop for, but Android alone, I think at last count we had, I don't know what the number was, about 300 or so different flavors of Android, from different versions to screen sizes and everything. In fact, one of the users of our apps wrote into us and said, "Say your app's not working for me." And so we said, "Well, okay, what platform are you on?" And give us some details. He said, "Well, I have a modified version of Android running on my refrigerator." So at some point, you just have to give up and say, "Okay, you're on your own if you're modifying that much." So we also have, besides the apps that we develop for news stations and newspapers around the country, we have in-house made apps, and that's where a lot of kind of our data that we use to develop our platform comes from. And so what metrics are important for us, and the metrics that are important for us should be important for everybody else. So these are specifically based on the app world, but can also be used in the website world as well. So obviously the first metric, downloads, is important for everybody. If you don't have downloads and you don't have users using your apps, in our case, we want to have consistent readers, readership that keeps on coming back and reading the app. Obviously the next 2 points are interrelated. The time an app affects how much revenue the app's going to get. Like Graham said, all of our apps are based on, or the revenue on all of our apps are based on ad revenue. And so more time in app means obviously more ad revenue. So before we even write a bit of code, a lot of our team has experience in user experience, or user design and user interfaces, UX. So we first need to like I said, before we write a line of code, we need to make sure that there's a clean, consistent design. Obviously, this goes back and relates to the continued use, continued readership that will come to our app. But even after the app is running and out in the market, we need to iterate on that, update the UI based on reviews that I'll show you in a minute. Critiques of our app, users writing in to tell us how they're using the app and what's going wrong for them. And another big important thing is we download other apps just to see what the competition is doing, how they're using the features in iOS and Android, and sometimes modifying what they're doing if we find that it's working for them, and I wouldn't say copying what they're doing, but just moving one step beyond what they're doing, but kind of using other apps as a baseline for our app ideas. So some of the drivers of these metrics of like time in app and usership are based on stuff that you do, in fact, before we even have the app in the store. And so setting up the app is important. The description and keywords are the main things. I think the stat that I recently read is that I think 70 to 75% of the people find their apps by searching in the store. They don't browse through the store and randomly pick apps that they want to download. They have a specific app that they want to find and use, and so they're searching for it. So the description and keywords are very important. We've gotten in trouble with the description and keywords. You don't want to just load up your description with a bunch of keywords because you'll get kicked out of the store. Your app will get kicked out of the store, and that happened to us a couple times when we're experimenting. Images in your app description is more for kind of marketing purposes, just to get people pulled into your app and download it. The two other things are that we have built into each of our apps are Google Analytics, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. Those give stats about usership, time in app, how many people are returning to our app that we all use to go back and iterate on our design. The backend servers are important. Early on, we used a company out in Oregon to serve up all our content for all of our news stations. Unfortunately, when big news happens, like for example, when Whitney Houston died, a lot of apps are trying to push out that content and trying to get people in their app to read the story about it. Fortunately, when in the case of Whitney Houston or the unfortunate Boston bombing incident, we had moved to Amazon, so there was we didn't skip a beat. We had our backend all set up. So in the field, we make sure that the content is continually refreshed. There's no resubmission for new content or anything. It's just automatically in real-time refresh, so the news station can go into their app, push new content out, and it's live on the person's phone. While the app is in the field, like I said, a main thing that I do is examine all the analytics for the in-house made apps, and one of the products that we use is called App Annie. There's actually a local firm in town. They're called AppViz. I used to use them, but not that they're bad, but I switched to App Annie recently. I can show you an example. So App Annie gives a nice, these are some of the in-house made DoApp apps. This isn't all of our apps, but it gives a nice layout of how many downloads are happening. You'll see, one of the things I found interesting is that, you'll see different spikes, and those are the weekends. So, and in particular, the yellow part of that spikes up. This is an app we have called Sports Tap. And the reason it's been spiking up recently is because the NFL season began, and people are watching the games, and they're using their phones at the same time and downloading the app and finding out information about the teams that they want to win. So we've seen, especially on Sunday, we've seen download spikes on our sports app. The blue section down there is weather, and weather is always a good driver of traffic. I know myself, whenever I call my parents, the first thing they ask is, what's the weather like? So that translates well into the app world too. People want to know, what's going on weather-wise. So anyway, App Annie is a good way to look at your downloads. Obviously, if they're down and to the right, then you need to update your app description or keywords or your marketing goals that need to be updated to increase the downloads. So a case study is new as app, since that's what we're familiar with. There's a few different ways that we found to drive traffic to the app, or more readers and consistent amount of readers, and those are push notifications. So push notifications are, you probably get them, they're kind of updates for whatever app, and in our case it's news app. You know, if there's breaking news, we send out a push notification. Sometimes they get annoying, and that's kind of a line we have to follow along, just to make sure that we're not pushing out too many notifications during the day, and maybe not too few, just so people can continually use the app. So a couple of things that we found: we have a app called Diet Buzz. It's a dieting and fitness app. We found that the time of day that we push out news app or news updates is critical for that app. So in the morning, like, we'll push out a breakfast-related maybe recipe or fitness routine that a person can do. At noontime, maybe a fitness routine, and at nighttime, maybe some tips on winding down or sleeping habits or whatever. So the amount per day and time of day are very important to make sure that people are using your app, but you're not overwhelming them with pushes galore. In fact, so speaking of weather and these pushes, I'll do a live example here that I have set up. Since I said weather is a driver of traffic, so actually before I get to that, we can see in real time, this is Google Analytics dashboard here. So this is we have an app called Headlines, and it's just kind of general breaking news, world, national breaking news, weather. Right now we see that there's 170 users in the app, and sometimes the site goes down, so you need to refresh it. So there's 110 users. So this is kind of, I think this is fun to watch, but you might think differently. So I have this news thing set up. So this is a story from AccuWeather: fall air to filter into U.S. Northeast, chilly air to charge the Midwest. So anyway, I'll send this out. If you have the Headlines app, you'll receive it. So it was just sent out. I got it on my phone right now, so we'll go back to the analytics. We'll see how popular weather is right now. Just a couple of hosts. So see it there now. You see the stats going up, the number of users, 150 users right now, 177. So it's kind of fun to watch, but more importantly, to see what this is. Obviously the real-time tool is important to see, if the stories are actually being open and read, and sometimes we'll push out a story that's maybe a general interest story that doesn't get much usership, and so we'll know next time to not push out that type of article. Weather is always a driver of traffic, as you can see here. Breaking news, the ISIS stuff is always a driver of traffic. So this tool obviously helps us to see stats in real time. We can also see it over time too. So this is over the past, since January 1st of 2014, we can see there's a spike in the summer months. I think in some of these spikes, actually, this is user traffic per day. Over March and April, there was a spike in traffic. In the summer months, it kind of went down to a low point. Now it's kind of rising up a little bit as fall. So I think in the summer months, the usership was a little down. Not as many people were downloading the app and using it, so it went down a little bit. Now in the summer, when the school started and people are going back to work after vacations, they're coming back to use the app. So there's kind of some general theories that you can draw from just looking at data over time. The other nice thing is that we look at is time in app. So on average, since January 1st of this year, users spent 2 minutes 40 seconds in the app. Now, the time in app actually, one thing that I found, we have this general news app for world and U.S. news. We also have a weather app, and the time in the app and the weather app is usually around 30 seconds because people just go into the app and want to check the temperature or the today's weather and then exit. So obviously the different subject matters of each app have there's different amounts of time that people spend in the app. So, like I said, Google Analytics gives a bunch of different stats that I look at a daily basis to determine things that we can change and update in our app. In fact, one of the things with the push, the push is one of the things that I gained from from looking at data and analyzing it over time is that we now have a feature that news stations can use to time their pushes. So like if they want to have like a morning weather report, they can set it up the day before, send it out at 8:30 in the morning, afternoon weather report or traffic report or whatever, and send it out at 4 or 5 p.m. So these are the kind of real world examples that looking at the data can and seeing how it drives traffic at different times of the day have helped us kind of hone our product and update our product for everybody. Let me go back to the. So the other thing I briefly mentioned, so we mentioned advertising. We have another product, and we don't have too many data points on the new product. We have a self-serve ad product that we use that people can go in and advertise on our apps, and it's geolocated. So if you have a shop around this area, you can advertise your donut shop or whatever in the morning between 8 and 10, in a 5-mile radius of your location. So that's an advertising product that we have built into all of our apps. The other point I mentioned, consumption based on time of day, that gets back to these push notifications that we send out, depending on the weather. Obviously weather is a big driver of traffic for all of our apps, and also the time of day. Just what I said about pushing out relevant news for the morning, afternoon, and evening. Obviously the morning and evening are the times when people use the apps kind of in a more leisurely setting. The afternoon or the midday is where they're kind of looking at the news, at work or wherever. So that's more the meat part of the day that they're looking at the news. So, and like I said, we use App Annie or AppViz to analyze the data and reviews of our apps. I can go back to this App Annie product. So, for example, this Headlines app, this is the app that I just pushed the weather notification out to, so we can look at the reviews. We don't have to go into the App Store to look at the reviews. We can just go here and see. Obviously, there's some positive reviews. Great app, covers everything from breaking news to horoscopes, sports, and obituaries. Other things, story incorrect and misspelled words and phrases make the story difficult to read. So, obviously that gives us a pointer on what to correct. We actually, then there's comments like this. It says, looks like it's time to dump this app because of progress. Will not condense articles like it did before. A new feature found in bottom of settings on by default to spy on user habits. Well, we have these Google Analytics that are built into our app, and so we thought we'd be the good guys and say, okay, you can turn it on or turn it off. Obviously, we're not spying on this particular user, Mink Anik, or whatever his name is, but so anyway, so there's obviously some feedback that we can use, some others that we dismiss, but so this App Annie is a good tool to kind of consolidate and aggregate all the data we get and kind of read through it and determine what we want to do in the future as far as future app updates. So we have a few more minutes. Any questions you have about app or app analytics or anything? I think the guy before me, or the guy a couple of times before, asked about the Vikings. I don't know anything about the Vikings, so I can't answer those questions. Yep. Yep. Yep.
How do you balance driving engagement with providing a really good user experience that people want to use over time? So you could drive, really rapid engagement, overwhelming user, but how do you balance that against usability?
Sure. Yeah, and keeping the user. Sure. So how do I balance? Well, did everyone hear his question? So balancing user essentially satisfaction over time with driving traffic. So the example I gave with pushing news, obviously, we've done some experiments pushing stuff all the time, and we've seen, looking at the analytics, Google Analytics, as well as App Annie, that the usership goes down, or the time in app goes down if you're pushing too much stuff, and the reviews, there's a lot of negative reviews. This app pushes content all the time to me, and I don't want it. So it's kind of something that we have to balance over time, just to kind of gauge, just looking at all the analytics measures that we have, reviews, downloads, everything, just to gauge over time, like what level of push notifications or whatever, or how often do we have to refresh the content just to keep users coming in. So it's kind of a game that we have to, there's no set formula or anything, we just have to gauge it over time. And that's different for all apps. Obviously the usership for the headlines, World and News, or World and US News app is different than the audience for the Diet Buzz app, which is more women focused, or like the parenting app that we have, so and the weather app. So there's kind of different metrics or different things we have to look for in each of those apps. So it's kind of just something that we have to determine over time, some anecdotal stuff. And yep.
What data or user experience insights are you using to determine app development versus the web mobile experience?
So can you repeat that?
What data are you using, or insights are you using to determine if you should build an app or just create a great mobile web experience?
Right. So our focus, and I guess that generally comes back to the focus of our company, and we're an app company. So we do have a web component to our news products that all the news stations use and ask for. So there's a mobile kind of web component to the product, but most of our customers, like for example, KSTP is a local customer in town. They have their own web team that's doing the website of their news delivery on the web. So we're primarily focused on apps, and we've seen just in different analytics that we've discovered that app usage is actually trumpeting the web usage. So that's more on the station level to determine what they want to put their focus on. So yes.
So you mentioned, say, 70% of users in the App Store search to find an app they're looking for, their app in mind.
Right.
After DoApp rolls out a new app, what's the method for promotion to get those initial downloads?
So an update of the app, or just a brand new app in total? Sure. So that goes back to the ways to encourage people to download the app. So the keywords in your description. Obviously, when you probably notice, like when you search on Google, a lot of the search results are apps that you can download from the Android store or App Store. So making sure that you have keywords in your description. There's on the Android Marketplace store in the back end, there's a field to put keywords in. There's a field to put keywords into the in the iOS store. So just making sure that the keywords that your users are looking for, or that whatever the focus of your app is. So for like example, the Diet Buzz app, that's about dieting and fitness. Obviously diet is a keyword, weight loss, fat burning, all those types of things that people might potentially be searching for. Obviously you don't know for sure, but you can kind of guess at what people might be searching for to get to your app, and then ideally depending on it, I think Apple updates their search algorithm all the time, but I think some of the things they focus on are the keywords, obviously the quality of your app. They also monitor the usage of your app in the back end. So if they determine in the back end that your app is popular, then your app will rise in the rankings. So, but yeah, it's kind of a tough to start off in getting your app noticed. So there's other ways to market. One of the things we have a few minutes. As far as marketing a new app, obviously, I think most of our traffic has come directly from App Store searches. If you're going to market your app, my suggestion would be to market it on other phones, or like using AdMob as your ad network, or iAd to market it through that, because I think most of any downloads, like if you market it through like print means or whatever, you're less likely for people to type in, look at the paper or whatever you're marketing in a print venue, type it in. If you're on your phone and you see an ad for your terrific app, you're likely to click it and then download it right onto your phone. So I think as far as marketing your app, it should be done on the actual device that it's used on. Yep.
I was going to say, are you generally happy with the way search is working on iOS? Has it improved a lot? Is it better in iOS 8, for example, or is it?
Right. Well, I think that the back end of the searching stuff has. I don't think there's been much change in iOS 8, but they do improve their search algorithms just as Google does, and there's a bunch of people that are upset whenever they do, and so that happens here too, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches and try to beat them at their game.
Yeah, back to the Marissa Meyer connection and search. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Well, we have done some work with Yahoo in the past, but that was not really based on any Marissa Meyer connection, but it's more of our biz dev team. Yep.
How do you avoid looking at Spain in your titles of your apps? You see the title of your headline.
That's a good point. So you can get dinged for that, just having a bunch of keywords in your app title, in your description. So there's a fine line between what we can put in. Obviously, there's keywords in the app title for the headlines app description that help us get downloads. But if you load it up just with keyword after keyword, then Apple will and has actually rejected our apps from the store. So it's kind of a fine line and game you have to play with them. And also it depends on whoever is reviewing your app. Obviously, we don't get to pick the person who reviews the app, but there's some reviewers who just want to accept a bunch of apps that day, for whatever reason or quota that they might have to get, so they'll accept it, willy-nilly. But others, look at the quality of your app description and everything like that, and will ding you if it's not up to par. Other questions?
Have you gotten a lot of good feedback on your self-serve Patagogo network? You said you don't have a lot of metrics on it. Remember, I used it.
Right. Yep.
Me on my Flipboard, man.
Right. Well, yeah. I think we have gotten some good feedback on that, because the way that our self-serve network or ad network goes, and I don't have a slide to show that to you, but we have the advertisement to advertise in our apps just right inside their app. So it basically says, advertise here if you want to, and then they click it, and then they do their whole ad in line in the app, and hit submit, put the credit card in, hit submit, and go. So it's pretty easy for them to.
And you can do, what is it, 5-mile radius?
Yep, yeah, you can advertise within a 5-mile radius of a location, 10, 50, I think up to 100 or so.
And then across
Yeah, and across the world. So right.
Of course, the impressions went bam, just like that.
Right, yeah. So Graham had an ad for your big data.
When I launched my big data in the wild Flipboard magazine.
Right, and you probably saw the back end metrics, but yeah, the amount of clicks and so
practically watch it happen, you know, so.
right.
But were you saying you haven't really pushed it a lot as far as marketing?
Well, there's a couple of kind of political reasons actually that we haven't pushed it because we push it on our own apps, but news stations kind of want to. They have their own internal ad team, and so they want to, you know, have their own internal ad team work for them, and not us doing all the work. But
Any more questions? And then we head to lunch, I guess. If not.
right, thank you.